Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Good Guys Sports, joined by myself, your host, Blake Gerke, Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, and BL Blake Limburger. We are back for a big Olympics recap show. Obviously, unless you're living under a rock, you know that the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Olympic Games have just ended here as we close out February, and what a games it was. We saw some great action from multiple different countries all throughout Italy, some wonderful events, some wonderful Olympians, and just some really good action overall. So I know for myself personally, I thought it was a wonderful Winter Olympics, and I think it was a good return to a big scale Olympics. I think this is obviously you have the NHL players coming into hockey, some big names, and the likes of figure skating, skiing, snowboarding, kind of bubbling up on the American side. So I think from a spectator's perspective, this was a great Olympics for sure. And there's a lot of events, so we should dive right into it. Jackson, what do you say?
Let's do it.
So I think we should start with the medal count, maybe Jackson. And surprisingly enough, you're used to seeing the USA flag at the top of the medal count, but it was, of course, Jackson, the Norwegians who came atop on the overall golds and the overall medals. Obviously, Norway being that specialization in, winter sports, skiing being their prime specialty sport, if you will. Obviously, the top overall medalist, probably will get his name wrong, but it's Klabo Johannes Hofslot, I believe, six gold medals. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And then the second overall medalist as well was a different Norwegian, who had three silvers and two golds as well, in the biathlon. And then obviously the Klabo was Klabo. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so apologies to the Norwegians. But he won six gold medals all in the cross country skiing discipline. So pretty impressive showing from the Norwegians. Obviously, the U.S. coming in second in the overall medals count, and then the Dutch and the Italians both have 10 gold medals. But the Italians overall 30 medals. Jackson, what was your reaction to first the medal count? Obviously, pretty impressive Olympics from Norway, finishing first in both gold and overall categories, and just your overall thoughts on the games that we just closed out here recently.
Oh, I'm not surprised, Blake. Norway has dominated the overall count in these Winter Olympic Games for the third consecutive year. Um, the last time that actually happened in a single previous country, um, Germany was the last nation that and team to do it. In the 98, 2002, and 2006 Winter Games, the last country to do it for a single Olympics as a nation and a team and country for a single Winter Olympics in dominating fashion. The last team um, to do it for the overall medal count in its history for its overall standings. Now, as far as the overall medal count for these Winter Olympic Games, the USA was this close to take the top spot in the overall medal count, but they were but once again, like you said, Blake, Norway just pretty much dominates in everything, and King Clavo, the greatest ski or the greatest skier, if not the greatest Olympian of all time. He is there. He is. Let me tell you something. He is the Michael Phelps of the Winter Olympics.
Good
He
shout, yeah.
he is yes. He is there. Yes, and he is there. Michael Phelps of the Winter Olympics style, and he really he just is, Blake, and I say that because
I'm not going to argue with you.
he is by far the greatest weapon. Although I will say he is trailing his overall Olympic gold medal count. So we got a long way to catch with with the with the great one in Phelps. But I think that from what he has accomplished is just so very historical and astounding from how he even broke the record in any single cross country event, which is very astounding to me, and how he's even got this far, and a large part because there's been a few upsets and for that host nation and country, and for how the Norwegians know how to find a way to win is a large part, and part of that might also have to do with one of his fellow countrymen doing a sweep in one of the cross country events, and in, in one of those events of these games, and I think that you look at what he's accomplished, and that he has that Quavo has surpassed a fellow American named Eric Hiddens, who was a 5-time speed skating gold, who won the 1980 Lake Placid Games. So that tells you a lot from what he from what kind of history he's chasing, and what it says right there. But I think that from what Quavo has accomplished really is stunning to me, and how I think that from what he's accomplished so far. So now let me say this about our country. Our country. For now, I want to focus on the red, white, and blue. I am
Norway.
no,
Oh, the other
wrong.
one.
The red, white, and blue. The Team USA, the greatest the greatest country that we live in. We have the greatest country that we live. We have the we have we live in the greatest country in the world. We have the greatest athletes in the world. And yes,
Maybe not in the Winter Olympics.
yes. Norway is better than us, and as well as other winter other lead nations in the Winter Olympics. But I'm here to tell you that that Team USA, red, white, and blue, we have great athletes. We won the gold medal in men's and women's hockey.
Correct.
And Bria Johnson makes her Olympic debut, and with worth the wait finally wins a medal in the worth the wait before he calls it in the career. And then you have Chrissy Dickens, who crossed the finish line, and what it appears is that she was out of breath and she almost passed out crossing the finish line. That story was so striking, and she won a bronze medal in that race. And then you also have Elena Miles Taylor in bobsled, finally winning the gold medal, is a mom and has children. And I love listening to her story and all the stories that I watched during the coverage. And that was really so striking to me. And then also and then you have Ben Ago and Gus Shoemaker win the silver medal in the cross country skiing event. That was very exciting and fun to watch, and very emotional for them. I was very struck by that too. And then you have Hillary Knight scoring the all-time leader by who leads Team USA in women's hockey by a single point, setting the single season record by Team USA. Finally wins another gold medal in her hand, and as an MVP award for her for what she accomplished as a gold medal finalist. And then you also have Brady and Matthew Tkachuk and Jack Eichel and all those men's hockey players finally winning a gold medal since the Miracle on Ice in the 1980 Lake Placid Games. And on the same day, February 22nd, on the same day that it happened, that happened on this day 42 so many years ago, and that was very and think about it, and it's funny because the Americans swept the neighbors to the north, the Canadians, in a similar fashion, in a 2-1 overtime thriller, in a 3-on-3 format, which I know everybody is talking about, but I know we have some top top thoughts and some reactions to that. But I just have to say, but you just got to think that Team USA, from what they have accomplished, I've watched the Miracle on Ice movie a lot with my parents on a lot, and now I would highly recommend you guys watching. There is a Netflix documentary out right now called "The Miracle Boys of the '80s." Is a 2026 documentary. It talks about the history of the of how the USA beat the Soviet Unions in in hockey and in the men's game, and how they were, and how it was a tight one against Finland and all that stuff. And it's a must watch, and I highly recommend you guys watching it. I find it very fascinating. I watched it myself with my parents one night, and I was so struck by it, and it's a must watch, and I highly recommend it. But as far as how the rest of the games go in this one, well so you have
Stop you
well
right there for a second, Jackson.
yes.
I want to jump to Mike and get his overall thoughts on the games, any particular standout events, athletes, countries that you enjoyed watching the past couple weeks, man.
Yeah, no, it was great. I love the Winter Olympics, and got to give a shout out to Jordan Stoltz, U.S. Speed skater, 2 gold medals and a silver.
It was just he was close to that gold as well in
Yeah,
it was the 1500, right? Or the one that
yeah,
he, yeah.
and then you're talking about dominance. I think dominance. You've got to look at the Sweden's women's team in cross country.
Mm,
They
Mhm.
took 5 out of the 6 gold medals,
wow.
and the one event that Jesse Diggins won the bronze for the 10 kilometer. Uh, Sweden took 1 and 2 in that event. So I mean,
Mm.
talking about a dominant team, but hats off to both the women's and the men's U.S. hockey, and exciting. And I'm one that we could talk about this later, but I like the 3-on-3
Mhm.
as a
Interesting.
tiebreaker.
Mhm.
Could be some
Uh,
lessons taken to the NHL, particularly on that one. Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah,
yeah, and I also want to shout out. Sorry, you interrupt, Blake. But I also want to get a shout out to Alyssa Wu, who finally is golden. She's won her medal
Of
in the
course.
figure skating that she had felt so many heartbreaks. If you watch one of the stories that he retired, that she retired at a young age, and now, but then a few years later, she fought back and kept fight, and she kept competing in every world championship, and how she made it this far is a remarkable story.
Absolutely.
And I can't even put the words of how she even made it this far, but here she is. She finally got her medal, and now look at her now. She is at the top of the podium as the Olympic champion.
Absolutely.
Like
A great story for sure. Yeah, there's so many great stories across many different events for sure. B.O. Lamberger, what were your standout moments from this Winter Olympics? Anything catch your eye?
I think it's called like mountaineering or something, but when they're the cross country mountaineering, when they're racing uphill with the skins on their
Yeah.
skis,
That
and
was
then they
a
gotta,
new event as well, by the way.
yeah, they gotta take, it's like NASCAR combined. The pit stops matter, right? You got to take the boots off properly,
It's a
put
really
them
interesting
back on,
event.
hike the
Yeah, yeah,
stairs.
yeah.
Like it's not the fastest person, the most athletic person doesn't always win. You got to have good pit stops, good
That
transitions.
was a very interesting event, and like I said, first year for that one. Basically, if you didn't catch it, it's a uphill ski climb on skis. Take the skis off and then run up steps. I mean, crazy. This it seems basically just like the world's worst like winter workout, basically. So you're running up steps, put the skis back on, and then it's a
Hmm.
downhill kind of slalom after that. But yeah, no, that was an interesting event for sure. I think different events call for different types of, athleticism, right? So that was a good example of that.
And then, of course, I mean, how can we not talk about, the hockey? I mean, it's crazy now because it all, what this all started, what was it called? The tournament of nations. What was the
Four
tournament
Four
Nations
called?
face
Nations
off.
tournament.
that's where this all started. And you think they would have ever known? I mean, it's just crazy what this is. I mean, who would have predicted the U.S. and Canada being in the finals? Both had to win overtime games, I believe, in the semis to get to the finals, right?
So the U.S. beat Slovakia pretty handily, but the
Oh,
Canadians did have to. They just got past Finland in the semis as well themselves. So it was a competitive Olympics for sure.
gosh, that was electric, electric.
It was great, honestly, and yeah, I think it was. I think the four nations face off. You're right to bring that up, Blake. I think that was a good precursor because we hadn't really seen the top hockey players from the U.S. and Canada compete internationally for a while, right? This was the first Olympics since 2014. It would have been in 2014 in Sochi, um, where NHL players were playing in it, and then as well, you don't really have too many like world championship matches where the world's best hockey players, aka NHL players, are playing in it. So I think
Hmm.
last year's Four Nations face off, which was the substitute for the All-Star game last year, about this same time last year, and it was a big success. And the NHL players really bought in, and the U.S. and Canada players were squaring off. They were fighting each other before they were taking the gloves off. As soon as the puck was dropped, and they really cared and they bought in, and it was a great tournament. And I think that was kind of the reintroduction of okay, this is the sort of the USA Canada bringing it back the top level players back to a high level international competition. Canada won the Four Nations face off. Obviously, the U.S. came on top in this one, but yeah, no, I think for sure that extra level of competition in the USA Canada, both men's and women's side, really ended up benefiting the Olympics as a whole, and I think brought
Hmm.
a lot of eyes and a lot of good competition to the hockey in particular. So yeah, hockey was great. Obviously, it gets a lot of publicity because of the NHL players. But I think as well the players obviously bought in. Finland, Sweden, USA, even some of the other countries, Czech Republic, Slovakia. Um, Germany has a couple of NHL players too as well. It was a really good showcase for the NHL's best. I would suggest.
Yeah, and also Blake, before we move on to your next event, and before we move on to the summer games 2 years from now, is a few things I do want to point out before we move on is we also is yes, we don't cannot forget about Michaela Schifrin after the bounce back
Hmm.
slalom that she had after what she suffered in that crash in slalom in 2022, which was definitely heartbreaking and definitely and it was definitely a setback from what she did 4 years later after what she suffered in that um, in that last slalom race that she's been able to bounce back from. And I just know that all the hard work that she put in, she's finally back on top. She has won the gold medal for the first time since the 2014 Sochi Games, top of the podium, and also in in the big air skiing and slalom racing. That I want to point out is Brasilia won the first ever medal named Pazilia Breton. He made history by winning the giant slalom race by securing Brazil's first ever Olympic medal. Also became the first athlete from South America to win a medal at the Olympic Games. So how cool was that? I mean, you got to give some love for those Brazilians out there on South America. So they
Absolutely.
really deserve
Bringing
it.
it, bringing a bit of style to the ski game, huh?
And then you also had Italy
Bit of
winning the,
flair.
yes, and then you had yes, and then you also had and then you also have Chloe Chim in snowboarding didn't come away with the gold, but she did win a medal in snowboarding and silver, falling short to the Koreans in that race in snowboarding and and then and then you had Italy upsetting the U.S. in and then you had Italy upsetting the U.S. in the men's pursuit speed skating race around the track, and that was what struck me. And then top that makes Italy the top three finishes. That makes Italy the top three finishes in these games, finishing fourth in the overall standings as a host country, finally winning atop the podium, and that's just what makes it. And so that's just that. And so that's just what makes it so special at these games with all these athletes and everybody else. And so that's where things and so that's where we're facing with the host country, and gotta I mean, look, you gotta give what I love to those Italians, right? That's what they're there for. So even though you got a lot of respect, for sure. And so
Definitely.
also, Uncle Mike, I don't know, and guys, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a Nuzgod, the wolf dog, wandering at the finish line at the cross
Oh
country
yeah, the dog,
spirit
the
event,
dog, yeah, the dog
on February
sighting.
18th. Did you guys catch that?
I did
Yeah,
catch that.
I saw that.
That was a
He
fun
was like
little.
the yeah, he was like the star of the show and was really
I would have given him a bronze medal in my opinion.
I agree. He
Maybe
really
even silver.
that wolf dog deserved one. Just give him the gold medal.
Yeah, give him a treat at least.
At least a milk bone.
He stole the show, I would
Oh
suggest.
yeah. Yeah.
No, that was great, honestly. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think there was some really exciting events, competitions. I think as well, I really enjoyed. Um, I particularly liked the skiing and snowboarding. You see, like some of the races they had, the downhill snowboard. They have the 4-person downhill race. Same thing for the skiing. Some of the slalom events. Ski jump. All these different disciplines. There's some really exciting competition in all of those for sure. And of course, figure skating is always one of the marquee events. Jackson mentioned Alyssa Liu bringing home the gold. She's kind of been the standout female figure skater. Obviously, Mike's guy from Virginia, Ilya Milanin, or however you pronounce his name, ended up. He had a lot of hype going into his event.
Yeah.
Came up a little bit short though, Mike. I mean, that must have been gutting for you seeing a fellow Virginian come up
Well,
short.
he also goes to George Mason, so that was even tougher to watch.
Tough to say. I mean, tough to say. There's so much pressure,
But yeah,
expectations on
I
one. I
think it
mean,
was just pressure thing. But
it's mental, right?
of of the last men that won Olympic gold for figure skating had also their previous Olympic experience. They didn't do so well. So 2030 in France maybe his time.
It's definitely a different level of expectation and pressure that
Yeah,
a lot of these, versus like a world
yeah.
championships or
But
something,
the
right?
U.S. did win the team event.
Right. So golds were handed out
Yeah.
regardless.
I think, the Japan's team was fabulous in ice skating.
Yeah. I think got to give a shout out to Japan just in general in these Olympics. They had a lot of great snowboarders as well.
Hmm.
I noticed when I was watching the competition, snowboarding, figure skating.
Yeah.
I think in the medal count they were not too far off. They were in 10th, but pretty. If we sort by just overall medals, they were fifth behind Germany, Italy,
Yeah.
USA, and Norway. So pretty strong showing for the
Yeah.
Japanese, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, and the Eichel brothers and the Chuck brothers were the stars of the show of U.S. men's hockey. We all know about Hillary Knight and star of the women's hockey team. So both sweeps of men's and U.S. women's hockey. It's always a great feeling, even though yes, we get a lot of respect for those Canadians up north, but we can definitely finally say that how we can taste it, and we get the red, white, and blue, and those Americans and how they can and how we got the revenge from all those losses before 1980 of how we got back from revenge and those guys and Mike Sullivan and those guys and all of those guys and Connor Hellebuck and the Hellebuck brothers and those guys. They really showed up and they were and they worked hard for this moment to even get there. They finally won their moments and on top of the podium, Olympic champions for the first time for
Jackson,
decades. It has been a long time, Blake. But I'm going to tell you, Blake,
he's
they
gonna have to get
stole
a
our
dentist,
maple
man.
syrup. I know. Jack with those teeth. I know
The
what I was
Hughes, the
saying.
Hughes brothers.
I know the problem is, Blake, they don't have a dentist nearby on site at the Olympic Games, but they do at NHL games.
I'm
That's my
sure
whole
they'll
point
figure it
on
out.
that.
Yeah.
But my point is that it is that about my thoughts on the U.S. Canada rivalry. That I can tell you, yes, the Canadians have a great team up north in Canada, but they stole our maple syrup from us, and and they and
John, if you
and 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 and, and and what's made in America is pretty much America's favorite barbecue, like barbecue July 4th, and some barbecue meats and some burgers and some Texas toast and hot dogs and hamburgers, the
don't say French
American
fries.
style, French fries and ketchup and mustard, everything. But maple syrup, come on, it's got to be made in the United States, not Canada. Even though even those people up in the border are nice. It's just my opinion. I mean, that's just how I feel about it.
Well,
I
Jackson, with
like
that
syrup
being
personally.
yeah. With that being said, man, I got to jump off and get to this meeting. Great talking to you guys. Go
Great talking to you
USA.
too, Blake. Go USA.
Mike, glad you had fun on the ski trip. See you
Thank
guys.
you, Blake. Good to hear you.
See you guys.
See you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we should pivot to any
The
other.
the Summer Olympic Games next, Blake.
Well,
And
yes,
our attention to that.
we do have to look forward to LA 2028, don't we? A really
Yes,
exciting,
we do. I'm very
exciting
excited.
time. But we should touch upon any other, Winter Olympic happenings. I wanted to quickly mention, it seemed like a lot of attention, just looking online or like we're talking about was the curling seemed to be having a pretty big 2026 in terms of the well, first of all, the amount of games they play. It's a round robin tournament. Lots of games. They played a 10. So a lot of curling content. I think on Peacock Jackson, they had just a curling specific feed as well, where you're just watching curling 24/7. So I think a lot of people were learning and ended up becoming fans of curling, just kind of drilling into that, given the amount that was happening there. So I think
Yeah.
curling deserves a bit of a shout out for this games, no?
Yes, it does. And I was actually so the men's and women's teams had a great run. They had a great term in these games, and I was watching the coverage and analysis of it on the Gold Zone on Peacock during the games, and I was so struck and all the analysis and stuff, and they were talking about how it's very similar to like a football game, 7-0, and how it's confusing, and you got to like it's really confusing if you got to like aim it at the middle of the target or in the hole or different sides of or on those circle curlers or wherever it's yellow or red, but you see the men's and the women's curling team. Although the U.S. Americans team, we're always Olympian for those who are supporting the red, white, and blue of our country, the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, of USA. Although we didn't get all the medals that we were hoping for all sports, which doesn't really which doesn't always happen that way for each Olympic Games. But you got to be very proud that the U.S. men's curling team was able to medal as a silver medalist in that final against the Canadians in that one. So you got to give. I mean, look, the Canes were the better team that game. Yes, they stole our gold medal from us, which is definitely heartbreaking for me just to say. But you got to be, but you still got to be very proud that the U.S. Men's curling team made it this far, which I'm proud that they did. And
Absolutely.
And as far as the right, and as far as the U.S. women's team goes, and from what they've accomplished in these games, so they so they lost to Switzerland in the semifinals and quarterfinals.
It's a competitive curling
Yes, it's not easy, and
outlook
that's really
out
yeah. Well, it's harder. It's harder than it looks. It's harder than it looks. So I think that's what the U.S. women's curling team was up against, and so the Swiss were a better team in that round. But I think but all I gotta say is the U.S. women's curling team had a great run. They did all they could, but it just fell short, and that was really and that was that. So that's where the USA curling team stands for as of right now until they get better for the next one in 2030. Whenever they can bounce back and it's one from this, if not the World Championships.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, did you enjoy watching the curling at all? You're gonna
It
start picking
was
up
it was it was
gonna start picking up the broom pretty soon yourself, maybe?
I don't think so, but it was fascinating. How the sweepers to get the stone to actually curl in the direction they needed it to go. It was
There,
it was
yeah, and there was a bunch of yelling involved too, so you can tell how intense that sport is.
It gets pretty heated out there on
It gets
the curling court.
it gets heating and intense.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think another event that I particularly enjoyed, Mike mentioned Jordan Stoltz. I thought the speed skating was really strong this year. I think that the team events and the individual events, it seems like maybe this is the case for every Olympics, every 4 years, Olympic records, world records are being broken, and people are getting faster times, but it did seem like the speed skating was the level of competition was just particularly strong this Olympic cycle. I think it seems like every single heat, an Olympic record or a world record, excuse me, was close to being broken in speed skating. And I
Mhm.
think, any other Olympics, Jordan Stoltz would be considered one of the greatest of all time, but he just had so much competition, whether it was the Chinese or the Dutch speed skaters, just really going out there and putting on a clinic, to be fair. But I thought that short track speed skating was really, really cutthroat, really brutal. I think there's just some really good competition. I think the sport of and I think as well on the some of these bigger heat competitions where you have, four or five skaters going on at once, and you see a lot of collisions, people being taken out. So there was strategy as well in those bigger heat events in terms of, making your lane, timing your runs, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought this give a shout out to the speed skating. I thought was particularly strong in this 2026
Yeah.
edition.
That is short skating just reminds me of roller derby.
Similar, yeah. I
But that's the Dutch are always strong.
That's their bread and
And
butter, isn't it? Yeah.
they're getting stronger in the short track. They were always strong in the speed skating, but on the short track they're getting a lot stronger. But it was fun to watch. I mean, especially the 500 meter short track. That's like,
No,
you know,
it's pretty crazy, honestly. And I think some of the short track stuff. I particularly like I think my favorite variation of that is a relay, just because I think it's so chaotic, where you have
mhm.
so many different skaters on the ice at once, and they're pushing each other. Obviously, when they're handing off, and um, it was just I think it was the Dutch that won the men's 5,000 meter relay. The
Yeah,
Italians won the mix one there. Um, like Mike mentioned, the Dutch obviously strong in that speed skating, but yeah, it's just I think that's a good example of um, a sport that you don't know much about, but then every 4 years you just see it and are very impressed by the level of I guess detail and intricacies that go into I mean these guys are just a couple of half a seconds off from each other, but obviously it's the small details that will gain you a millisecond or whatever that can
hmm
ultimately put you on the podium or knock you off the podium, right? So I think some of these
yeah,
timed events is really where you see the high level of detail going into. Whereas you see the more like a figure skating or like a half pipe in a snowboard, for example, like you're judged off of your points. Whereas like these timed race events, like you're really judging off of the slightest turns, the slightest mistakes can really end up costing you. So the margins are obviously very tight, particularly at this high level of competition in the Olympics. Jackson, any other
Um,
big events or sports from Milan that you wanted to touch upon?
Yeah, so we had a few upsets that I want to share with you. Well, one of them we have Georgia, not the state of Georgia, but the country Georgia, winning a medal in the team skate event, and then we also have and then we also have and then we also have Pakistan winning in figure skating. That's a bit of a surprise for
Oh
me.
yeah, the men's figure skater from
Pakistan.
yeah, it's Kazakhstan, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that's something everybody would be surprised on. And then
Yeah.
you have the French winning in men's and women's biathlon
The
for the
French.
first time for the first time in these
The
games. So
French
that's
love a
something
good biathlon,
that
don't
struck
they?
me. Yes. Oh, they sure do. Those French know how to get it done.
The French biathlon, that's their bread and butter for sure. They
Definitely,
they
definitely.
love a good biathlon for
They're
sure.
they are very they recruit well and they're well talented at it. Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So now, Blake, let's turn our attention now to the next um, upcoming Olympic Games out here in American soil in North America, right
You're in
behind my
LA right now?
background. No, not yet, but I will.
Okay.
But I probably will be
You'll
in a
be
few
soon.
years' time, right around the corner in L.A. in the stars of in L.A. In the Tinseltown of L.A. and Hollywood, where where in the last summer, where in the last summer, 9 previous summer Winter Olympic Games, our country, the United States, unlike Norway, would dominate the medal count in the Winter Games. Well, our country, the greatest country in the world, the greatest athletes in the world, USA dominates in this category in this version of the Summer Games. They're just that good, Blake. They're good. They got great athletes. They got great stories, and they got great athletes, and they have and they are strong, and they're competitive, and they are great, and they know how to win championships for a reason in college and in the pro level, where they know how to get it done. And we have the best athletes in the world, and you get to do it in what better way to do it in home soil in your home country, and you're gonna draw more crowd attention to the crowd for events, and you even have flag football appearing in these versions of the games for the first time ever. And that means that the NFL in that year should pause under any training camp football, preseason football, or off-season workouts competitive. They should really Roger Goodell and the NFL should really consider doing that. And then they let all the NFL athletes compete with the little kids, and they can really be a part of this
So
fun.
you want NFL athletes to compete with little kids in the Olympics?
I do.
That doesn't seem very
I
fair.
think it would be a great thing for the sport. It
No,
would
I
be a
think
great thing for
it'll
the
be
games.
NFL players. I think they'll have they have like older professional flag football
Yeah.
players, and then you'll have a couple of NFL players in the US team, I would presume.
That's my point.
When is ultimate frisbee going to be an Olympic sport?
Yeah, I didn't make the cut for 2028, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean that's certainly I feel like that's got a decent case to be added in for sure, but no, it's unfortunately has not been added in for 2028. Flag
Yeah.
football, I guess, took the precedent over that, unfortunately for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jack, what's your favorite event in the summer?
oh, great question. I would have to say basketball, swimming, and gymnastics, and of course, I cannot forget about rugby because why? We are going to get a shout out to Mary Allen and her husband who wants to watch our show right now. That's definitely also one of my favorite sports to watch because they love to go to every rugby event and 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 for to come here in the USA and back in the states here in North America in the in here in our country in the USA, we are coming for you. Me, Uncle Mike, and Blake Lumberger and Blake Gerke are going to meet you there, and we are all going to go to the rugby event together and catch some rugby matches together, and we are going to be all watching the matches together and games together in person at the games. How does that sound? Well, I hope you're listening because
Wow.
we'll be there for you. And I can't and I, Blake, cannot wait for all the events. I want to go to the gymnastics with my sister Caroline because she's all into gymnastics. Although it is unclear if Simone Biles is going to compete for another run at the Summer Olympics. But if not, then I'm sure she'll cheer on some other athletes who are competitive for our Team USA athletes. But besides from that, I have to say the women's basketball team. Let me say this: the women's basketball team roster for Team USA, they missed out on Caitlin Clark in the last time around for the Paris games. They got to get her this time because if they do, then that's going to draw TV ratings up, and that's going to draw heavy crowds because if she makes the roster, that's going to draw huge crowds to make the team. It would be like Michael Jordan making the Team USA roster in the '92 Dream Team in Barcelona, in the '96 games in Atlanta. It would be similar to that. So I think that's something I have my eye on for the upcoming games in 2 years from now, and also, Blake, before I forget, I do want to shout out to Lindsey Vonn. Now she has suffered from a devastating hard crash, but I do want to send her thoughts and prayers that she is back home to States. We are wishing her very well, and and she is making a full speed recovery back at home. She's back home to States, back in the hospital bed, and if I had to predict Blake on where she goes from here, she's at 41 years of age, and I don't believe she'll make another run at it on competitive skiing. But if I had to guess what she's going to be doing now, doing now in her life, I'm going to be guessing that she is going to be going to be in the broadcast booth in the big air and slalom team for NBC Sports in the 2030 games is probably going to be my best guess.
Yeah, French Alps 2030 should be a great Olympics for sure. Yeah, no, it's well said, Jackson. Well said. I think you're a nice preview of what we have to look forward to in 2028. But as you mentioned as well, 2030, I think this was a really good reintroduction of a lot of winter games for a lot of people. I think it went particularly well, and like I mentioned earlier, 2030 will be in the French Alps, Mike. So, I mean, that's not a tough sell for you, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's a lovely destination. So LA 2028, French Alps 2030, and then as well 2032 in Brisbane, Australia as well. So we got some really exciting Olympics to look forward to. Any other Olympic thoughts, gentlemen, before we jump to a few other topics here today?
Yeah. So real quick before wrap up, the French Alps it's in the country of France out there in Europe, but you think about it from where it's actually located, it's considered to be out in the middle of nowhere. Not a single thing. In fact, if you were there, I think it would be hard to find your athletes village and for where your athletes are trying to stay and for how to get to one place to the other, which I feel like is one of those spots for the host country, even though Paris, when it was last host in the country in the country a few years ago in 24 games of summer. Although this part of France is really in the countryside, in like where farmland is, kind of similar to where they do the Tour de France runs at for where they run their bike races at. So that's kind of in that area for where they're for where the French Alps host is going to be, for where they for the bike race, Tour de France bike race takes place, and right around that same area. But I'm sure they'll find some little towns close by to where they get some food or find a place to stay for the athletes. But aside from that, it's really the host country in the middle of. In fact, the opening ceremonies in the stadium. I don't even think there's an Olympic stadium in that part of France. There's no way you can find an Olympic opening ceremony or opening stadium on site there. I mean.
So
Come on,
sounds like you don't want to go then, huh?
Maybe
no,
I'll take tickets from you then.
France has had 2 Winter Olympics so far.
No, I think that
1968, they had Grenoble, and then in 1992 in Albertville.
Hmm.
So they've pulled it off before. I
yeah,
have I have expectations they'll do a great job.
I think you're underestimating the French Alps, Jackson. It's a pretty nice area of the country, but if you don't want tickets, I'll give them to somebody else, man. So just
I'll play in the Pow Pow.
I'll give my tickets to Mike instead of you, huh?
Well, if you change your mind, let me know. Just until I
Nah, I'm
see it
just
at
teasing
first
you.
of where it is geographically.
Sure, I know. Yeah, you just got to do a bit of research on the French Alps. It's a lovely part of the country, so do a bit of research there. But I think it's going to be a fun winter games for sure. So looking forward to that one. Definitely, definitely.
Can't
All
wait.
right. Well, we got a couple of minutes left, so maybe we can touch upon a couple of sports topics. Obviously, we mentioned up how the NHL players were playing in the Winter Olympics in Milan. Now, last night, as we record here, we just getting back into the NHL regular season. So, as we're talking winter sports, seems like a decent time to maybe give a bit of an update on what's happening in the NHL, of course. Um, as we are getting into this final stretch of the regular season as players are coming back from the Olympics and jetting back into the postseason. In the Eastern Conference, we have our Carolina Hurricanes just trailing a couple points behind those pesky Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, man, these guys are still atop the Eastern Conference. You can't really get rid of them. Apart from that, it's a bit of a mix between, you got Montreal, Buffalo, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Boston, New York. Mike's Caps are hanging on by a thread, of course, in that Eastern Conference. And then in the West as well, the Colorado Avalanche. I'll be getting a firsthand look at the Denver tomorrow, so I'll let you know what I see. I'm not going to a game, but um, maybe they're an Avs fever out there, given the fact they have the most points in the NHL as we stand right now. And then, of course, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, some of your regular playoff contenders in the Western Conference kind of standing out there. But seems like Jackson, maybe this is a, 4 or 5 teams kind of liking their chances for the Cup. I think Tampa, Carolina, Colorado, Dallas, some of these teams that we've been used to seeing late into the NHL postseason, they'll be fancying their chances this year as well, particularly given the fact that Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions, are sitting pretty low in the table right now.
Yeah, they're a game behind Toronto in that in the Atlantic Division right now, followed by Tampa Bay is on top of the standings right now in the Atlantic. So you have Montreal in second, Buffalo is at third, Detroit is at fourth. The Boston Bruins are at fifth place overall in the Atlantic standings. So they're kind of on the cut line, on the verge of possibly missing out on the playoffs for where from where that team stands right now. So it's really a bit of a really a bit of really so it's really a bit of a must-win situation for them right now. And then you got Ottawa, and I mentioned Toronto and Florida on the bottom. Well, large part because because they had injuries. They're not the same team as they once were when they won the cup back-to-back years a few seasons ago, and so now this year is a little bit different because they had banged up with so many injuries, and one of the star players is out for the year. Out of the year is really is really a large part of that. But aside from that, the Lightning on top of the standings, which John Cooper, the Canadian team who coached the Olympics, now gets back to this is to play with the coach of the Lightning. Well, the Lightning are still a great team no matter what. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make a deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Aside from where things stand right now, in the scores right now, where the Lightning play in Carolina tonight, the game that me and my parents were supposed to go to, but we're not going to because we have a show, so we can't do both. That's really how it goes in our life. But so Tampa, so Tampa, so Tampa is coming on a team that's very hot, They Kucherov, they 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 won against the Maple Leafs in their first game back of the second half last night, and the Hurricanes, Avo and those guys. These guys can play too, but I expect this game to be a closer game than most people expect. But I think the Hurricanes probably win this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Lightning actually win this game on the road at Carolina.
The competitive Eastern Conference, Mike, have you given up on your Capitals making a run, or are you're still got a bit of an ounce of optimism left in you?
Oh, there's always an ounce of optimism. You know, they'll uh they'll make it in. They'll squeeze by.
I think it's a tight Eastern Conference for sure. I personally I like the Canes' chances this year, Jackson, mostly just because the pesky Panthers are not really much of a threat as we stand here right now. Obviously, maybe I'll eat my words if they sneak into the playoffs and make a run, but I think as of right now, it looks like in the Eastern Conference, it's going to be a bit of a slugfest for that top couple of spots for sure. I think the West is possibly a bit more wide open. I think Colorado is probably the best team, and they have the top points for a reason. I think they're obviously Cale Makar, McKinnon, some of the guys they have there are really strong, and they've assembled a pretty strong team there in Colorado. To be honest, I think they probably would have they won the Cup in 2022. I think it was they probably would have thought they would have had multiple cups by now. They've really built strongly in Colorado. I think they've got a really good chance, but playoff hockey can be a bit random at times, isn't it? And Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, some of these teams. I mean, you can't rule out Edmonton, given McDavid and his playoff success, of course, as well. So depends who's able to sneak in there, kind of in those higher seeds. But
Yeah,
um, yeah, I think it's an open Stanley Cup playoffs right now, I would suggest. Um, and I think, some of the big players that we saw in the Olympics coming back, obviously, McDavid, McKinnon from Canada, the Kachuk brothers for USA, obviously, Jack Hughes, the Devils, unfortunately, are a bit out of it right now, in terms of their playoff aspirations. But um, listen, I think it's going to be an exciting entry point back in. A lot of excitement centered around the Olympic hockey in Milan. I think a lot of people were really into some of the games they saw there. And so we can funnel some of that interest in hockey straight back into the NHL playoffs, I think personally, or the NHL moving closer to into the playoffs, right? So I think some of those big players, some of the big stars, able to kind of funnel it back into the NHL. So I think this is going to be a really exciting end of the season and a really exciting postseason, given some of the energy that we're carrying from the Olympics,
Yeah.
personally speaking.
How banged up is Crosby?
Doesn't look good. I think he's gonna miss a bit of time for the Penguins, I think. And I think for them it's a big miss for sure because they're not out of it. They're pretty much entrenched into the playoff position right now. But I think he's gonna miss definitely at least a month, possibly even more, with his injury. And obviously it was a killer for Canada not being able to utilize him in that gold medal matchup as well. And Pittsburgh as well, like I said, they're on 70 points right now,
Yeah.
six best in the Eastern Conference. So they'll be having playoff aspirations for sure. Um, but obviously Crosby's been there, done that. So they'll want to get him back and healthy in time for the playoff and, see what happens. I guess similar vein to someone like an Ovechkin, been there, done that. Kind of bide your time in the regular season and maybe kind of keep things going in the postseason, right? So some of these older guys definitely pacing themselves come this time of year. Well,
hey, Pittsburgh, like you mentioned, is a game back of our Carolina Hurricanes in the Metropolitan Division right now. But Blake, I was reading an article that did you see Jack Hughes and his teammate Tag Thompson on the Buffalo Sabres. They were getting a standing ovation, and
Great moment.
Jack
Yeah.
Hughes was addressing the
I did see
crowd
that.
at at the Prudential Center in Newark for the New Jersey crowd in the arena. The crowd was really into it. It was very emotional. It was really a standing ovation kind of thing, like they do in baseball. It was very similar to that, and the crowd was really into it. They were very happy that their teammates were back home. The States was very they were very proud, and they were just great teammates going at it when they were on the USA team, and it was very I thought it was very cool and emotional, and I was watching SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt, and I saw the
So
Jack Hughes.
just a call thing we're talking about. So Jack Hughes, obviously winning goal scorer for the U.S. He came back to New
Right.
Jersey, getting a standing ovation. They're playing Buffalo, and so he went and got the player from Buffalo. What was his name again? I can't remember what was his name.
Um, uh, uh, um, hi- um, his name was Tag Thompson.
Thompson, yeah. So you got New Jersey was playing Buffalo, so Hughes went over to the bench, grabbed Thompson, and they both skated around and got a standing ovation for their exploits in the gold medal game. So
Yeah, yeah,
great moment there
yeah.
for
But
sure.
Jack
So
Hughes and Jack Eichels made appearances on Scott Bell Sports Center, and then
SVP,
that's right, and then he was on that show last night. I saw the interview,
the bald man,
and then yeah, they were they're just getting a lot of attention here in the United States right now, Blake. Guys.
for sure. That is an accurate statement. Yeah. So some great moments as we are heading back onto the ice for the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Before we jump here, we're not going to talk baseball yet, Mike. We're going to save that for a show down the line. We're about a month away from spring training, so don't worry.
Actually, next week the World Baseball Classic starts.
Yes. So we will do a World Baseball Classic preview slash recap on whenever our next show will be, and then obviously touch upon the MLB season will be beginning in about a month. But before we go, I just want to survey, given that this is a winter sports hockey, centered episode. I just want to get your thoughts on who you're liking for the Stanley Cup Finals as of right now. We can change your pick later, but as we stand here right now, coming back into the Olympics break in the NHL, who do you like? You give them just one team or your East and West, however you want to do it. Jackson, who do you like right now in the NHL? Who do you think has a good chance to make a run as we finish out the season here and head towards the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Where you're headed? Where you're going to be headed in that direction tomorrow and see your friend Davis. Well, aside from the staying focus here now, my pick for the Stanley Cup final of 2026 this year, I've got the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I have the Tampa Bay Lightning advancing to the Eastern Conference Final, but I have the
You just picked the
Colorado.
two teams that had the most points in each
I know.
conference.
But I am, whether you like it or not, I'm going to stick with it. But
right.
Like I said, like I can change my pick, change my mind, whatever I want. Like you said, but for now,
that was Stanley Cup. That was the Stanley Cup Finals in 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Tampa
yes, it
versus
was.
Colorado, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I'm gonna, and for now, I am gonna, for now, I can take my pick, like if I want to, but for now, I am going to stick with the Colorado Avalanche beating the Tampa Bay Lightning in 6 games to win this year's World Stanley Cup Final, and they'll win it in 6 games.
Wow. Okay, Mike. Any teams that you're fancying as we sit here on February 26th?
Colorado Avalanche
Hmm.
and the Montreal Canadiens.
Ooh, you think Montreal has the potential to go on a bit of a run here?
And the Canadiens will win the cup.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh.
So we're gonna mark this.
Uncle Mike picking the first Canadian team to win it. To win it in his prediction. Ooh, I
They,
like it.
they'll get a little revenge from the Olympics.
Fair enough.
Okay, that's a bold statement from Uncle Mike Roby. Those Canadians are going to love what you're hearing, Uncle Mike. After what was being said, they can be the first Canadian team to win since like the
Like
Toronto Maple since like the Maple Leafs did it since like 1993 to be exact. The last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. But Uncle Mike with a prediction of the Canadians for those nice Canadians up north. Ooh, I like where you're going with this, Mike. The Canadians are going to love you, Mike.
Very bold. We'll see. Mark the date here in February. We'll come back to this. Cup final won't be for a while, but obviously I ask you guys for early predictions, so no shame if they don't come off. But if they do come off, you'll be looking very wise. So everyone out there, go place your Montreal Canadiens futures on your sports betting app of choice, of course. But do bet responsibly. All right, gentlemen, we are about out of time here on Good Guys Sports. We had a great Olympics recap, talking a bit of hockey, winter sports themed as we move through the winter, progressing into the spring. We got some big playoffs coming, MLB, NHL, NBA, of course, and we're getting closer and closer to the start of the opening day of MLB. And as Mike pointed out, a bit of World Baseball Classic to come in the meantime as well. So plenty to discuss here on Good Guy Sports. Jackson, Mike, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you soon.
welcome. Thank you, Blake. Have a great time in
And before I go,
Breckenridge.
one more time for the LA 2028 logo, as the Gerke family hopes to be there in 2 years' time.